Just 1 minute ago, a political earthquake shook Britain to its core. Keir Starmer, the man once presented as the face of Labour's revival, is now on the brink of resignation after explosive revelations from the Supreme Court tore through Westminster like a thunderclap. The ruling has not only exposed shocking financial secrets, but has also forced the nation to confront a crisis that threatens to upend the entire political order. What was once dismissed as speculation has now become undeniable fact. The highest judges in the land have confirmed allegations that strike at the very heart of Starmer's leadership, leaving Britain stunned, enraged and demanding answers. The announcement came with the weight of finality. In a move that no one expected, but everyone will remember, the Supreme Court confirmed that Keir Starmer knowingly accepted undisclosed offshore funding, money flowing from industries his party had sworn to fight. Fossil fuels, private healthcare giants, and even arms manufacturers were revealed as the hidden lifelines propping up Labour's coffers. For a leader who promised transparency, integrity, and reform, this was nothing short of catastrophic. Within minutes of the ruling, Westminster was thrown into chaos. Phones buzzed in every office, MPs scrambled to make sense of the bombshell, and advisers rushed into emergency meetings as the scale of the scandal unfolded. What began as whispers of misconduct had transformed into a historic ruling with one unambiguous outcome: Starmer must step down. The fallout was immediate and fierce. Social media erupted like wildfire, hashtags demanding Starmer's resignation trending within seconds. Outside Labour headquarters in London, furious crowds gathered, chanting slogans, waving signs, and demanding accountability. "No more secrets! Resign now!" Their voices thundered, echoing the betrayal felt across the nation. For many, this was more than a political scandal. It was a moral reckoning. The very man who had built his career on promises of justice and fairness now stood accused of betraying those values in the most flagrant way possible. Inside Labour's inner circle, panic was palpable. Leaked messages already revealed fierce arguments, finger-pointing, and threats of mass resignations. Shadow ministers were reported to be quietly erasing mentions of Starmer from their public profiles, while senior MPs described the atmosphere as funereal, a party leadership collapsing under its own weight. Allies turned distant, and whispers of a caretaker leader began to circulate. Names like Yvette Cooper and Lisa Nandy were suddenly on everyone's lips as survival, not loyalty, became the priority. The Supreme Court's language left no room for manoeuvre. Their judgment was scathing, declaring Starmer's continued leadership a direct threat to public trust in democratic institutions. Internal emails presented as evidence confirmed that senior advisers had warned him of the risks months before the donations were finalised, only to be ignored. What Westminster once treated as rumours was now verified fact, backed by the highest court in the nation. And with that, the question was no longer if Starmer would resign, but when. This ruling, unprecedented in its severity, set Britain on a collision course with political history. Never before had a Supreme Court ruling so directly demanded the resignation of a party leader, let alone one positioned to contest the next general election. Tory ministers wasted no time in seizing the moment, branding it the greatest political betrayal in modern history. Reform UK declared Labour a party that had sold out the working class to foreign profiteers. Even the usually cautious Liberal Democrats joined the chorus, calling for his immediate resignation. Westminster itself, once the bastion of controlled political theatre, had become the stage for an uncontrollable crisis. Meanwhile, the nation looked on in disbelief. Polling conducted within hours of the ruling showed more than 70% of the public demanded Starmer's resignation, including a significant portion of Labour's own base. For ordinary voters, this was not just another scandal, it was the collapse of trust in a leader who had asked them to believe in change. Activists tore up membership cards, grassroots groups mobilised, and protests spread from London to Manchester, Birmingham and Liverpool. Britain had seen political crises before, but nothing of this magnitude. The cracks in Labour's fragile unity were splitting wide open, and the Supreme Court's bombshell had lit a fire that could not be extinguished. As Starmer's silence stretched on, the fury only intensified. Each passing hour without a response allowed his critics, both inside and outside Labour, to dominate the narrative. Opposition parties sharpened their attacks, the press magnified every new revelation, and the public's anger grew more unrelenting. Britain now found itself standing at the edge of an unprecedented storm, with one question hanging over Westminster: how much longer can Keir Starmer hold on before the walls cave in completely? The storm surrounding Keir Starmer has now grown into something far greater than a political scandal. It has become a national crisis shaking every corner of British society. Within Labour, the fallout has reached breaking point. Senior MPs, once fiercely loyal, are now openly plotting a path forward without him. Reports confirm that more than 40 Labour MPs, including several shadow ministers, have signed a confidential letter demanding his resignation, warning that any refusal will trigger mass walkouts. For a party already reeling from years of internal conflict, this is not just dissent. It is a rebellion in plain sight. The Labour benches, once united behind a single leader, are fracturing in real time, leaving Starmer isolated at the very moment he needs allies most. Behind closed doors, the mood is bleak. Emergency meetings stretch long into the night, with advisers split into warring camps. Some urges Starmer to resign swiftly, preserving what little dignity remains and avoiding criminal prosecution. Others push for defiance, arguing that stepping down would only cement the accusations and destroy Labour's chances at the next election. But leaked accounts from inside these meetings paint a darker picture: anger, shouting, even tears, as those closest to Starmer confront the reality that their leader's credibility has evaporated. A senior MP described the mood not as a crisis meeting, but as a funeral procession. Beyond Labour's walls, the Supreme Court's judgment reverberates with seismic force. Legal experts have declared the ruling a turning point in modern British politics, a precedent proving that even the most powerful leaders are not beyond accountability. Starmer's alleged acceptance of offshore funding, confirmed through leaked documents and verified emails, has been framed by the court as a willful betrayal of both the law and ethical duty. The evidence leaves little room for doubt. Millions funnelled from Cayman Islands hedge funds, routed into Labour's accounts through shadowy networks designed to bypass transparency rules. And at the heart of it all, industries Labour had vowed to fight. Fossil fuels, private healthcare profiteers, arms manufacturers. It is not merely hypocrisy, it is seen as treachery. Public fury has reached boiling point. In cities across the nation, protests are swelling in size and intensity. Outside Labour offices in Manchester, Birmingham and Bristol, thousands gather, waving placards with slogans like "No more secrets" and "Starmer out now." Social media platforms are ablaze, amplifying outrage at a scale unseen in decades. Hashtags trend relentlessly, petitions gather millions of signatures overnight, and footage of protesters tearing up Labour membership cards circulates like wildfire. This is not a passing outrage. It is a movement, one that threatens to permanently reshape the political landscape. Meanwhile, the opposition has seized its chance with ruthless efficiency. Tory ministers appear on every broadcast, branding the scandal the greatest betrayal of public trust in living memory. Reform UK surges in support, presenting itself as the voice of the betrayed working class. Nigel Farage has already declared Labour a crime scene and warned that the British public will drive Starmer out if he refuses to resign. Even the Liberal Democrats, often restrained in their rhetoric, have demanded his immediate departure, describing his leadership as untenable and toxic. Westminster is no longer debating his future, it is preparing for life after him. But perhaps most devastating is the reaction from Labour's own backbone, the trade unions. Unite the Union, historically Labour's most powerful ally, has issued a chilling ultimatum. Unless Starmer steps down immediately, all financial and organisational support will be withdrawn. Such a move would be catastrophic, stripping Labour of the resources it needs to function in an election campaign. Other unions are following suit, signalling that Labour's survival as a political force now hangs in the balance. Without the unions, without the public, and without his own MPs, Starmer's leadership is collapsing under the weight of total abandonment. Yet through all this chaos, one element remains unchanged: Starmer's silence. No statement, no resignation, no televised address. That silence has become deafening, a vacuum filled by his enemies and critics. Each minute he refuses to respond adds fuel to the fire, feeding the narrative that he is detached, indecisive, and unwilling to confront the truth. His advisors are divided, his MPs are in revolt, and his party stands on the edge of annihilation. And now, with criminal investigations into electoral fraud and misconduct in public office looming, Britain is left to wonder, will he cling to power until he is forced out in disgrace, or will he resign before the storm engulfs him completely? The clock is ticking, the pressure is unbearable, and the fate of both Keir Starmer and the Labour Party hangs by a thread. The chaos-consuming Westminster has now reached a fever pitch, with the scandal around Keir Starmer spreading like wildfire through every institution, every party, and every corner of the country. What began as a legal judgment has evolved into a full-scale political earthquake, shaking not only Labour, but the very foundations of Britain's democracy. Inside Parliament, the atmosphere is electric and hostile. Tory MPs, emboldened by the Supreme Court's ruling, are demanding immediate parliamentary hearings. High-profile figures such as Jacob Rees-Mogg and Suella Braverman are leading the charge, calling for the Crown Prosecution Service to open formal inquiries into electoral fraud, misconduct in public office, and even potential political espionage. Their message is blunt: if Starmer refuses to step aside, the law will finish what politics has already begun. Reform UK, sensing opportunity, has shifted into overdrive. Nigel Farage and his allies have launched a relentless campaign across television, radio and social media, branding Labour a party of corruption and Starmer a servant of foreign profiteers. Their rhetoric is fiery, designed to harness the anger of ordinary citizens who feel betrayed and abandoned. Membership numbers are reportedly spiking, donations are surging, and Reform's message, Labour cannot be trusted, is resonating with a growing portion of the electorate. Pollsters confirm that Reform's approval ratings have shot upward in the immediate aftermath of the scandal, a development that could permanently alter the balance of power in British politics. Yet the scandal is not merely about hidden funds and offshore accounts. It is about the erosion of trust at the highest levels of government. The leaked documents have exposed far more than financial impropriety. Receipts, encrypted messages, and internal emails paint a picture of lavish trips, undeclared gifts, and secret meetings with lobbyists tied directly to EU trade negotiations. The revelations suggest that while Starmer was publicly presenting himself as a defender of British sovereignty, his inner circle was quietly negotiating with Brussels-backed lobbyists, allegedly offering regulatory favours in exchange for financial support. To Brexiteers, this is damning evidence that their suspicions were justified, that Starmer was a proxy for Brussels all along. To pro-EU voters, it is an insult, proof that their hopes for honest representation were compromised by secrecy and greed. For both camps, the scandal represents betrayal on an unforgivable scale. The impact across Labour's grassroots base is equally catastrophic. Constituency Labour parties, once the engine of local campaigning, are in revolt. Emergency meetings are being called in towns and cities across the country, with motions of no confidence against Starmer flooding in. Activist groups, including Momentum, the grassroots force that once championed Jeremy Corbyn, have released statements condemning Starmer as a traitor to Labour's values, calling for an immediate purge of the leadership and the installation of a caretaker figure. Protests are no longer limited to London or Manchester. They are erupting in Liverpool, Bristol, Birmingham and Newcastle. Crowds are swelling, slogans grow louder, and the anger is increasingly impossible to contain. Labour's organisational machinery is beginning to collapse under the weight of the crisis. Leaked WhatsApp messages reveal furious arguments among MPs, open defiance of the party whip, and threats of coordinated resignations. Aides describe Starmer as increasingly irritable, isolated and disconnected from reality, unwilling to acknowledge the scale of the rebellion against him. For many within the party, his silence is the most dangerous weapon against them. Every minute without a response is a minute that allows their enemies to dictate the story. The Labour Party, once seen as a credible alternative government, is now viewed as a fractured and chaotic organisation, consumed by infighting and betrayal. And the public is watching it all unfold with unrelenting scrutiny. Polls taken just days after the Supreme Court's judgment reveal that over 70% of the electorate demands Starmer's immediate resignation, with even Labour loyalists deserting in droves. Images of torn-up membership cards flood social media. Videos of protests go viral, each one intensifying the anger. Petition signatures demanding his removal rise by the millions, while hashtags condemning Starmer dominate the online space. This is no ordinary scandal. It is a national reckoning. The public, long weary of secrecy and corruption, is demanding not just Starmer's resignation, but sweeping reforms to political funding and transparency. Meanwhile, whispers grow louder in the halls of Buckingham Palace. Sources close to King Charles have indicated that he is deeply concerned about the erosion of trust in political institutions. Constitutional advisers are reportedly exploring whether extraordinary measures may be required to preserve stability and confidence in governance. Though the monarchy traditionally remains distant from such crises, the unprecedented nature of the Supreme Court's intervention has forced the Crown to watch with anxious attention. For the British public, this signals the magnitude of the scandal. It has reached so far and cut so deep that even the monarchy feels compelled to weigh its options. As Westminster drowns in turmoil, Labour faces an existential question: can the party survive at all? Or will this scandal, this Supreme Court bombshell, prove to be the fatal blow that dismantles a century-old political institution? The pressure is mounting from every side: legal, political, public, and with each passing day of silence, Keir Starmer drifts closer to becoming not just a disgraced leader, but the man remembered for presiding over Labour's irreversible collapse. The scandal has now transformed into a full-blown political hurricane, tearing through Westminster and leaving destruction in its wake. For Labour, the crisis is no longer about one man, it is about survival itself. Senior party figures, once hesitant to speak publicly, are now openly breaking ranks. Cabinet hopefuls are positioning themselves for the inevitable leadership vacuum, while others are quietly plotting escape routes from a party they believe is collapsing beyond repair. Leaked reports reveal that more than 40 MPs have privately agreed to walk out en masse if Starmer refuses to resign, a move that would cripple Labour in Parliament and leave it unable to function as the official opposition. What was once a movement held together by fragile unity now teeters on the brink of implosion. Inside Labour's headquarters, the atmosphere is described as unbearable. Advisors pace corridors, MPs lock themselves in heated meetings, and communication staff scramble to contain the narrative. But every hour brings new leaks, new evidence, and new fury. Documents emerging from the leaked cache continue to reveal damning details: undeclared luxury trips funded by offshore donors, encrypted exchanges with lobbyists tied to European interests, and payments that appear to have influenced policy debates at the highest level. Each revelation strikes another blow, pushing the party further into chaos and leaving Starmer with fewer allies by the minute. For the unions, the backbone of Labour's strength, the patience has already snapped. Unite the Union has delivered an ultimatum: unless Starmer resigns immediately, all funding, organisational support and campaign infrastructure will be withdrawn. This threat is not idle. Without union backing, Labour's electoral machinery will grind to a halt. Campaign offices will shutter, rallies will dry up, and the party's grassroots network will collapse. Other unions are now lining up with similar warnings, signalling that the wider Labour movement is prepared to cut ties with its leader if he continues to cling to power. The message is stark: Starmer's presence is no longer an inconvenience, it is an existential threat.